I have one question. I didn't notice anything in here that talked about a term limit. So I guess my question is, and maybe this is more for our discussion, do we want to incorporate, I mean, from my perspective, I think for things like this, we should do this every so often. I don't know what every so often is, but whether that's 3 years or 5 years, but I think that we should maybe specify that into some sort of agreement.
Okay. Well, I agree there should be a contract. However, I think that in the state of Kansas, with regard to legal services, there's a termination at will standard clause with any contracts, and if there's an issue that representation is lacking, we could open it up at any time.
I agree with that. I would just say that from a pricing perspective, I would think that I'm thinking more long-term. So, for instance, if we say for 3 years, every 3 years we're gonna go out and make sure that we're getting the best deal from our money. Is I guess more what I'm thinking about.
Isn't that what I mean? Wouldn't we sign a multi-year contract anyway? I mean, this is a contract, isn't it?
Well, I kind of read this as open-ended though.
Well, this is the RFP, but.
This is the RFP. You would come back once you secure someone, and you would have a contract with certain terms and proposals and stipulations in that contract with a rate as well.
Well, what do you recommend? I mean, what is the...
In terms of time frame?
Right.
I think of some thought to that, only because you're building some institutional knowledge. You know, you want to look at, at some point you're going to get to the point where you have to make a decision on in-house counsel versus a firm. You probably want to look at least 3 years, maybe 5 years, but the city, as the city continues to grow, you need to look at whether or not you want to have someone internally that you're starting to have as an employee on a long-term basis. So I think we need to give some thought to it.
How did we come up with the selection criteria?
From other...
in the RFP?
From other cities that have outside counsel.
I believe that the city administrator got RFP information from a couple of different cities, 3, I think, and crafted a RFP based on some of the information that she got from the RFPs from those cities.
Was LCAM at all consultant in this? League of Kansas Municipalities?
No.
No?
Just the cities, no. Cities in the area.
Anybody else have any other questions about new business item number 5?
Oh, what about the rate? When does the hourly rate play into the...
When they provide us with the proposal and you start to get into contract negotiations.
Okay.
And just so we're clear, this is going to fall under a professional services agreement, so it won't necessarily be lowest bid, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions about new business item number 5? With that being the case, I would open the floor to public comments regarding new business item number 5. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak regarding new business item number 5, I invite them to come forward and be heard. As no one's coming forward, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we authorize staff to issue a request for proposals for the position of city attorney.
Second.
Motion Freeman, second Shute, that we authorize staff to issue a request for proposals for the position of city attorney. Any additional questions or comments? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. All right, at the end of the new business agenda and on to council updates. Does staff have anything for council?
No.
Council have anything for staff?
A couple things.
Okay.
The big dirt pile out at the 5 Star Trucking lot. does not appear to be in compliance with
Mhm.
city code. What's going on there, and what have we done to change that?
You want to-
When we were advised that someone was piling dirt there, we were in the process of reviewing a building permit, and we determined that without a permit that includes the grading, an approved grading plan, it would require a separate grading permit. We requested they come in and get a grading permit. At this time, they have a permit. They have not acted on it. Part of that permit would be addressing the dirt pile. I think what I need to do next, based on your stated concern here, is to follow up and see what our options are relative to the building permit. At some point, a building permit can expire, but I'll see what our possible recourse is regarding the dirt pile.
But the permit they asked for did not include the ability to pile up dirt. I mean, there can't be a permit in the world that allows people to, I mean, I can understand if there's if they're digging a hole, pile up the dirt around the outside of the hole, but they're just storing dirt there, right?
Basically, it's a land disturbance permit type of issue, and we require erosion control measures. We required an erosion control fence put around the pile. I believe that was done. The permit was not necessarily for creating a pile of dirt. It was for grading, which involved moving around dirt. And so I think compliance with the permit would require that they move the pile of dirt.
But I mean, they know that the permit was given with the expectation that they're going to move dirt in anticipation of building what they said they were going to build there, right?
That's my understanding.
It just seems like, I mean, it seems like there ought to be some ability to enforce that quickly.
And is there action that we can take on that, based on our codes?
I believe there is. I'd have to look at the code and see what our recourse is, and I can report to the city administrator. to
I mean,
provide you with a
has anybody
report.
had a conversation with them? Do we know what they're doing with the dirt?
I think what initially happened was someone was looking for a place to pile dirt, and this is an opportunity for them to do that.
Okay.
And they did so without a permit. They did so prior to a permit being issued for the project, the five-star trucking project. We noticed that, we were notified of it, and we went out and told them, you need to deal with the erosion control issue of the dirt pile. I would have to look at the conditions of that permit and see what the parameters are and what our potential recourse is on the dirt pile.
But why would we issue a permit when that was the only leverage we had? I mean, they did an action that was not in keeping with what they could have been doing, and then we issued a permit allowing them to do it? Or I guess, I mean, was the dirt pile there and then we issued the permit after the fact?
We issued the permit to address the erosion potential primarily of the dirt pile.
Well, and I believe that people will be in violation of codes on occasion, and permits are issued after the fact, and I think that in the building trades,
Very much.
that's
It is common.
common occurrence. Probably more common than anybody wants for it to be, but
True, I mean, somebody starts their basement finishing project, and then they come in not knowing that they need a permit. But this, I guess I'm just questioning why they were given a permit after they already had, the dirt pile. That, to me, seems like that's when you fine them for, because that dirt is not there, again, as part of an excavation project. It's there for storage, which was never the intent of what we approved when we approved the rezoning, as I recall.
and actually, I think Mike says that there's action
He
that
can
we're gonna be
still-
able to
He can still
take
enforce
on
the
that.
permit.
Right.
Well, is there a fine if they don't have a permit? Or is it,
Well,
there are other legal actions?
Actually, I think they've got the permit now, and the fine would be for the violation.
They generally, I need to look at the details of this permit, but generally someone has a limited amount of time to act on the permit and to carry out the permit. If they don't, then they are in violation in some way. What I need to do is look at the conditions